Hello everyone and welcome to the Leader Talk session of the NASSCOM Cloud Advocacy Program, where we have been talking to various subject matter experts on evolving trends in cloud computing. Today's conversation will focus on cloud management platforms. An organization's cloud infrastructure today is a blend of public, private, multi-cloud, and sometimes even industry cloud. It is therefore imperative for companies to deploy tools that will help them best optimize the usage and management of cloud resources. In fact, as per a recent IDC press release, in 2025, 70% of infrastructure, security, data, and network offerings will require cloud-based control platforms that enable extensive automation and promise major reductions in ongoing operating costs. Sharing his thoughts on this topic is Senthil Kumar, Associate Vice President of Technology at GlobalLogic India, a Hitachi Group company. Welcome, Senthil.
Hey, hi, Diksha.
Before we get into the discussion, here is a brief profile about Senthil. As a technology and cloud DevOps SRE practice leader, with more than 25 years of progressive experience in creating innovative products and services, Senthil is responsible for pre-sales, advisories, and product engineering for digital transformation programs. Currently, he leads a team of cloud DevOps architects and SMEs to help enterprises globally in their cloud and DevOps enablement journey. He has helped close multi-million-dollar deals through pre-sale support and architecture advisories. He has also managed and led consulting, pre-sales, architecture, and technology practice teams over the years. Senthil holds a Bachelor of Engineering degree in Electronics and Communications from the National Institute of Technology in Tiruchirappalli. Senthil, to start off our discussion on the cloud management platforms, right? I just wanted to get an overview of what are the trends that you're seeing currently in this space, both from a technology side and the end user enterprises side. So what is the focus of the technology companies? And from an end user enterprise perspective, what is it that they are asking when it comes to these platforms?
Right, Diksha. So glad to be part of this conversation, right? So, I mean, if you look at the evolution of cloud management platforms, we had the first generation cloud management platforms around 5 to 10 years back that focused on managing virtual machines or just the infrastructure, right? Now we have the current generation cloud management platforms that are focused on managing the PaaS services, the SaaS applications, and also the cloud native solutions, right? Like microservices, DevOps, containers, and others. So that is the kind of the current generation of CMPs that we see in the market. But what I see as the emerging trend, which a lot of startups are looking at, is one is moving to kind of a low code or a no code platform, right, for cloud management. So we have some startups which have created solutions where you can just drag and drop widgets on the UI and then create a script for cloud operations. So that kind of brings down the effort from say weeks to say just hours or days. So that is one kind of cloud management, low code, no code cloud management platform that I see in the market. There are some startups which are actively working on that. The other emerging trend is to kind of integrate AI/ML with cloud management platforms, right? So you use AI/ML to kind of automate the operational tasks, to gather insights from the operational data, and also automate the resolutions for those issues. So I think these are the two major trends: low code, no code, moving towards low code, no code platform, and also integration of AI/ML into cloud management platforms. And the other question about enterprise users, right? I think the enterprise users are one, they're looking for ease of deployment, right? So they want the cloud management platforms to be easily deployed in their environment. So that means, I mean, this cloud management platform should be kind of maybe available as a appliance on the marketplace, on Azure marketplace or AWS marketplace or any other cloud marketplace, and it should be easily deployed on any cloud. And it should also be easy to integrate with our existing IT environment. I think these are the two kind of expectations from the enterprise user.
Okay. And you spoke about using low code, no code, right? And my next question is actually related to that. Is how are existing CMPs equipped to manage the ever-increasing complexity of an enterprise's cloud architecture? We just spoke about having a mix of hybrid, multi-cloud, and now there is also a trend where they're talking about meta cloud and super cloud, right, which is supposed to add a layer of abstraction. Right. So, in that context, how is it really simplifying the architecture for enterprises?
Right. So what we see is enterprises are increasingly adopting multi-cloud and hybrid cloud infrastructure. One is to reduce the cloud infrastructure's cost and for better delivery, right? And also to kind of avoid vendor lock-in and also use best of breed services. And what we see is all the current generation CMPs, right? Like if you see big vendors like Flexera or CloudBolt or other open source or other smaller solutions, they're all well equipped to kind of manage the entire spectrum of resources, right? Starting from infrastructure as service, on-premise applications, platform as a service, microservices, containers, right? And when you get this super cloud or meta cloud concept, they add a layer of abstraction or a technology layer or a cross cloud layer above these public clouds, right? And they will provide a kind of a simplified management and also uniform set of APIs to kind of deal with or operate on all of these public clouds. So actually it makes it simpler for the cloud management platforms. And I'm sure when that concept kind of gets implemented, a lot of cloud management platform will use those APIs to simplify their operations.
Does that mean that when you are looking at a super cloud or a meta cloud, as they call it, the cloud management platform is embedded in that solution, or is it still a separate solution?
No, I think it will still be a separate solution because what I envisage is the cloud, super cloud or the meta cloud would be more of a standard set of APIs, right? Which can be used by different companies or different consumers, and they can build their own kind of portal and other things, right?
Okay.
Dashboards and
Oh,
security
yeah.
built on top of it.
Mm-hmm.
So I would say that that layer at least would be separate, and then they would use this meta cloud and super cloud APIs to kind of build on top.
Okay. Staying with enterprises, Senthil, one question I wanted to understand was at what stage of any cloud journey should an enterprise start thinking about deploying a cloud management platform, right? Is it at a certain level of architecture complexity that they feel the need for that kind of a platform? And what are the key parameters that an enterprise should look for when they're selecting a cloud management platform? And what are some of the potholes to avoid, if I may?
Right, right. So what we are seeing is enterprises should start looking at cloud management platform, and they're going from say a single cloud usage to multi-cloud or maybe a hybrid cloud, right? So when you have a single cloud solution, if they're just using AWS or Azure or GCP, each of these hyperscalers provide their own tools for monitoring and operations, and they're very and other proprietary tools are available, and they're very efficient, right? And you also have like APM tools like Dynatrace, Datadog, and all, which are also very efficient in managing a single cloud, right? But the complexity arises when they go to multi-cloud, when they start using multi-cloud solutions for whatever reason, right? And then the number of data points that they have to collect, and also the number of systems that they have to kind of interact to manage and operate the different cloud also increases, and that increases the complexity. So in that case, it makes sense to kind of go with a cloud management platform, which provides a single pane, right? And a simplified management interface to manage the multi-cloud. So I think that is the point. I mean, when enterprises should move from maybe using their own solutions to cloud management platforms. And in terms of the key parameters to look at, right? I mean, internally we have GlobalLogic, we have come up with an evaluation kind of framework, where we look at the vendor assessment, right? We assess the vendor in terms of market share, the stability, and also what is the functionality provided by them. Because there are some CMP vendors who provide a very niche solution, maybe only in cost optimization or only in monitoring, right? They may not provide all the functionality that is required by an enterprise. And also we evaluate the vendor, I mean, CMP vendors based on one is functional capabilities. So we think on the functional level, a CMP should have broadly five major functionalities, right? One is provisioning and orchestration, where you can provision and orchestrate resources on any cloud. Then second is service request, right? You should be able to fulfill the request from the users in the enterprise in terms of, say, provisioning a VM or accessing a particular service on the cloud. So you have to provide a service catalog, and then you should be able to implement the overall approval workflow and all that. Then you should also provide kind of cost optimization capabilities. Then the other one is monitoring and auto remediation. You should be able to collect the alarms and the events from the cloud providers, and also able to take actions immediately, right, and automatically. And the other one is kind of security, right, security and compliance, to make sure there are no threats of cyber attacks and all that. So they should have all these major functional capabilities, and we kind of evaluate the vendor based on this. And of course, we also evaluate them based on technical capabilities. One is they should be able to easy to integrate, deploy on multiple clouds on the hyperscalers. It should be easy to customize, and then it should have a kind of a web portal where all the users can see what the dashboards and reports, and operate and do administration tasks. So, and also take, I mean, security and all that. So broadly, we evaluate them based on the vendor market itself, and then from the business point of view, and then we also evaluate them based on functional capabilities and technology capabilities. And then we have a scoring mechanism for that, and based on that, we kind of, and also based on the business requirements of the enterprise, you kind of do a match, and then you can give a recommendation on which CMP is good for an enterprise.
And what about some of the mistakes, that people make when they're deploying or using CMPs? What is it that they should keep an eye out for?
Yeah, one is, I mean, they have to look at whether initially the CTO or the CIO needs to evaluate whether CMP really makes good sense for them, right? And because they have to look at their existing environment, right? It's not only whether they are using multi-cloud, but also whether how easy is it to integrate that CMP vendor with other tools in their IT environment, right? So there could be some failures because of these integration mistakes, right? So that is one big thing that they'll have to look at. And of course, I think cost is important, cost and ease of deployment and ease of operating the CMP, right? Because you are dependent on a third party vendor. So how do you mitigate that? I think these are some things that they have to take care.
Okay. And coming to the governance part, Senthil, when we're talking about the convergence of IT and OT, right? Where does the primary ownership of a cloud management platform lie? What role do, say, for example, finance and accounting team play? Where does that come together? Yeah.
Right. So what we have seen is in large enterprises, they usually have a central team, right? Which comes under either the CIO or the CTO organization. This centralized cloud team is more responsible for taking care, I mean, evaluating CMPs and also operating the CMPs. So that is where I think the primary ownership lies, right? So, in terms of finance and accounting, what we see is more of the finance and accounting teams are more interested in the KPIs, right? How to optimize the cloud cost, right? So they already kind of establish what are the KPIs, what are the budgets for each department in the enterprise. And then they kind of expect reports from the CMP. So they don't kind of directly, and maybe they were also involved in kind of understanding the functionality of the CMP, and also in how much it will cost to operate the CMP. But otherwise, they are more as consumers of the CMP reports, right? And then based on that, take actions and plan for future any future plans, right? Yeah.
So because one of the things that I keep reading about in terms of cloud is the entire concept of FinOps, right? Where you're trying to keep cloud costs under control. And so where does the finance team come into the picture in terms of saying that, maybe you're going over budget or the budget is being underutilized? That is what I wanted to understand.
Yeah. So finance is a very important area for all the enterprises. So what happens is you are the planning stage where you say clearly that what is the budget for each department, what is the, and then once you have the budget, and then you have reports to track that, and then you also show back and to each department, right? And also maybe charge back to each department that this was the budget, this is the usage you are doing, and then kind of monitor it. And if it goes above, above the budget, then of course remedial action need to be taken, right? So I think the finance department acts as helps all the departments within the enterprise in kind of planning for it, right? Because based on the annual budget, like how much part of it should be required for cloud, and continuously monitor and take actions to make sure you don't. CMPs should make sure that you kind of monitor and control the cost immediately, right? It's not that at the end of the month you get a report and say it was $250 and now it is $2,500, right? So that $250 immediately it should, if it exceeds, of course there should be controls to kind of immediately inform people or maybe take actions in terms of taking down the resources, right? So all of that and shutting down the entire thing. So all of that is part of the CMP, and the finance department makes sure that all that happens, right?
Okay. And what about talent, Senthil? I ask talent related questions because we keep saying that there is a shortage of cloud skills in India. When you CMPs, what is it that a person managing a CMP should have? What are the skills? What is the understanding that they should have, either of the cloud and technology domain and also of the business domain at all?
All right. So, I think the skills are similar to what you require in a cloud DevOps domain, right? So, you can maybe take on the role of a cloud developer or a cloud architect and become part of the companies that are developing these CMPs, right? But for that, you should have maybe a development background, a Java, .NET, or any other language, right? And otherwise, the other one is more as a cloud support engineer or a cloud administrator role, where you kind of help in deploying the CMP, configuring it, customizing it, and then maybe operating it, right? So there again, you will require maybe scripting skills, DevOps skills, right? So I think these are the major kind of broad areas, and they are similar to what you require for any other cloud DevOps role.
Even if it is an enterprise that is deploying cloud, then a cloud architecture or a cloud engineering skills is what you would say would be needed. Because they would be running the platform and managing it and maintaining it.
Yes, yeah, no, what I'm trying to say is when you're managing and operating, there may be only a cloud support engineer or a cloud admin role would be required. But if you're part of the company which is developing the CMP, then maybe.
Obvious. Yeah, you need the development person. So those are my set of questions, Senthil. Good conversation on CMPs because I see this emerging lot of demand for CMPs now. So thank you very much, and we'll keep in touch.
Sure. Thanks, Diksha.